It's David Jones. I know it's old news, but we have to hop into the David Jones conversation. He ends up staying in the NBA draft, and he went up to, what was it, like 3 p.m. when the deadline was at 10:59 Central Time to either stay in the draft or come back to Memphis. He got, there was an announcement at about 3 p.m. from Jonathan Givony that he was going to stay in the draft, and then we had Hitman Hoops and we had Parth at the Daily Memphian, like trying to hold out hope, saying it's not over until it's over. But ultimately, if you get that from Jonathan Givony, that shout that he's staying in the NBA draft, regardless how early in the day it is, he's probably going to. But this definitely leaves something behind. What do you think of the decision, first of all? That's what I want to start with. What do you think about the decision for David Jones?
I've kind of been on the fence about this since the conversation was brought up several months ago. Because you look at it from the University of Memphis, Penny Hardaway, Memphis fan perspective, it's like, okay, it 100% makes more sense for him to come back. He can make more money here. He can be a star here. He can continue, building on what he did last year, all these different things. And yeah, absolutely, I get that. Would he have made more money at Memphis? Yes. Would he have more minutes? Would he have more star power at Memphis? Absolutely. But for him, and this is kind of where it deviates, the dream for anyone that plays collegiate sports, high school, any kind of organized sports is to make it to the professional level. And if you feel like this is your best opportunity, which I think you can make a strong argument that it is based more than anything off of his age, I don't think he was going to boost his draft stock this year, even if he had a similar performance to last year. Then it does make sense for him. Like if this is his ceiling, if he's not going to be any higher than like a fringe late second round undrafted guy, what's really the point in waiting another year? Clearly money was not the deciding factor for him. I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago when Drew Hill
at the Daily Memphian.
At the Daily Memphian wrote an article about him and had quotes from David Jones saying, it's not about the money, it's about following my dream, playing in the league. And I feel like that was really the switch. When we heard those comments, it was kind of like, okay, this is there's a bigger discrepancy in this decision between fan base and what David Jones was actually feeling than we may have thought. And from there, it kind of trended in the direction of him staying in the draft. And I don't blame him. Capitalize on the opportunities that you get. You never know what happens if you come back. Like I said, the ceiling is not going to get that much higher, but an injury happens or, performance falls off and then he's not even on NBA draft radars. Like this was, if that's his dream, which we know it is, it was the time to capitalize on it. I don't think anybody can fault him for it.
It was the best opportunity he was going to have. I've come to realize that. Like, even if he came back for another year, he can improve on some things, but how much improvement would he have to have in the energy department or the defensive side? Like, how much improvement would he have to nullify the year lost, being 24 now instead of 23? Like, how much would he had to improve to really put himself in a higher stock? So I think if he would have come back, the production wouldn't have been as high. The 38% from three, like that's hard to replicate.
Right.
There's not another season we can look back on in David Jones' career that tells you he's going to shoot that high of a percentage from three again. So I think this was strike while the iron is hottest. Now, I'll say this from a decision standpoint, and I think everybody, obviously David's the ultimate one who made this decision, so it was his decision to make. But I think if you feel like this was a misguided decision, I'm not gonna fully blame you for that thought, because if you go into this thought process with, monetary concerns, if your decision was based on money, then without a question, this was a bad decision for David. Yeah. Like, there's no doubt about it. He'd about $750,000 to $1 million. He comes back to Memphis. Now he's going to get, I don't know, peak probably $400,000 for a year on a two-way and maybe play a couple of games in the NBA. So if this is purely based on monetary reasons, you're going to think that he made a bad decision. But if you just sort of read through it, I think he has something to fall back on if this doesn't work out. He can play overseas. Hell, we just saw DeAndre Williams win a championship in Taiwan for the T1 League. Yep. So there's going to be opportunities for him elsewhere in basketball. So if it doesn't work out in the NBA, he can just fall back to that. And It's not the worst thing in the world. He's just going to miss out on a few extra dollars. But he said, to Drew Hill, I think it was almost, I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but it was very close to something like this. He said, if I wanted to just chase the money, I would have never gone into the NBA draft, even tested the waters, because he knows he's going to make more. He would have made more at the University of Memphis. Now, when it comes to what he also told Drew Hill is like, you aim for a two-way contract at the least. And that's what would have kept him in the NBA draft. I sure as hell hope he has that promise. Yeah. I really do. Because if he made this decision to jump at like a summer league opportunity or to be in the G League for a couple of years trying to get to the NBA, I do think that is a tough decision even for his career. Yeah. Because I think even if he would have come back to Memphis, he could get that opportunity. He could find a summer league spot somewhere just based on past production, even if this year wouldn't have gone great at Memphis. So I hope he has that promise, or else I'm going to feel pretty distinctly different about this decision, even on the chase your dream front, if you will.